Jaya Radha Madhava Inda Bihar Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nana Vrajana Nandana Yashoda Nandana Vrajana Nandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamona Dira Yatati Yamona Dira Vandasavadi Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Rama
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna
Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Jagannatha Shiva Jai Subhadra Jaya Subhadra Jaya Rama Jaya Gopangi Bing Krishna Gopangi Bing Krishna Gopangi Jaya Lakshmi Jaya Simha Jaya Jaya Simha Jaya Ananda Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai Gaurani Hare Gaurani एवं विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमद अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। एवं विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। रामाचार्य श्री लंकास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। मायापुर श्री नवद्वीप धाम की जय। मथुरा धाम की जय। द्वारका धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी महारानी की जय। समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। गौर भक्त प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato jayamudiraye nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavatasevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. So today we will be discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, 28th chapter, verse number 3. We welcome everyone for ISKCON Seshadripuram morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. I'll just try to have this verse. So this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam is in the third canto, 28th chapter, third verse. This 28th chapter is entitled Kapila's instructions on devotional service. So we all know Kapila Dev is having a long conversation with his mother, actually giving her a lot of instructions. And part of that is what we are going to see today. We will read the verse. Gramya dharma nivritischa moksha dharma ratistata mita medhya dhanam sashvad vivikta kshema sevanam. Gramya dharma nivritischa moksha dharma ratistata mita medhya dhanam se shashvat vivikta kshema sevanam. Gramya dharma nivritischa moksha dharma ratistatha mitha medhya dhanam shashvat vivikta kshema sevanam. Word by word meaning. Gramya, conventional. Dharma, religious practice. Nivrittihi, ceasing. Cha, and moksha, for salvation. Dharma, religious practice. Ratihi, being attracted to. Tata, in that way. Mita, little. Medhya, pure. Adanam, eating. Shashvat, always. Vivikta, secluded. Kshema, peaceful. Sevanam, dwelling. Translation and purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. One should cease performing conventional religious practices and should be attracted to those which lead to salvation. One should eat very frugally and should always remain secluded so that he can achieve the highest perfection of life. Purport. It is recommended herein that religious practices practiced for economic development or the satisfaction of sense desires should be avoided. Religious practices should be executed only to gain freedom from the clutches of material nature. It is stated in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam that the topmost religious practice is that by which one can attain to the transcendental devotional service of the Lord without reason or cause. Such religious practice is never hampered by any impediments, and by its performance, one actually becomes satisfied. Here, this is recommended as moksha dharma, religious practice for salvation or transcendence of the clutches of material contamination. Generally, people execute religious practices for economic development or sense gratification, but that is not recommended for one who wants to advance in yoga. The next important phrase is mita medhyadhanam, which means that one should eat very frugally. It is recommended in the Vedic literatures that a yogi eat only half what he desires according to his hunger. If one is so hungry that he could devour 1 pound of foodstuffs, then instead of eating 1 pound, he should consume only half a pound and supplement this with 4 ounces of water. 1/4 of the stomach should be left empty for passage of air in the stomach. If one eats in this manner, he will avoid indigestion and disease. The yogi should eat in this way as recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam and all other standard scriptures. The yogi should live in a secluded place where his yoga practice will not be disturbed. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshururmnitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamahyam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tamsa Jeevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vranda Vaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this verse is very, very important. This verse is very, very important, not just in the context of, generally, as every verse is very important in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, that is there's no question about it. But in what context, I'm referring to this as very important is this. There was around in 1975, there was a professor who was very renowned in philosophical studies and who was a scholar, Westerner, but his name was Hopkins, I think. And he was a big renowned scholar in Indian, the Eastern, and all the philosophies of the world, particularly the Eastern philosophy, the Hindu Dharma and all. And he was very favorable to Srila Prabhupada. So he used to on and off meet Srila Prabhupada and discuss with him a lot of philosophies. So at one point in time, in 1975, Prabhupada had written a lot of, by that time he had written a lot of what do you call, commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. So like that, Prabhupada has already written many books. So this professor used to also try to read and so in one of those conversations, so I was saying, so Prabhupada, you have written so many things, but within all of that, what is most important? Or not what is most important, but what is the if you have to say in a few words, what is the summary of your philosophy? Something like that he asked. And Prabhupada actually said, yes, this is a very important question. And he actually narrated 2 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, I think 2.9 and 10. So he actually narrated these 2 verses. And this particular verse is actually very closely connected, or rather, it is talking the same subject matter in that sense. So now, in one sense, if you have to see, this one actually explains the complete philosophy of Krishna consciousness in one sense, or the entire summary of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is as important as it is in, if you really look at it. Now let's, try to understand this verse, and then I will also try and talk about those 2 verses and how we are able to relate to this verse and see that actually this is, this is the crux of the entire Krishna consciousness. Now, if you see, let's go back to this verse. It says, one should cease performing conventional religious practices and should be attracted to those which lead into salvation. So it's used, the word is used, gramya. Gramya, we all know, right? Gramya Katha. Gramya Katha, when we say, we understand that it is basically something to do with our normal, colloquial, our day-to-day affairs, right? Gramya. And here, Gramya Dharma. And it is so, therefore, that religious principles, which is generally followed, which is the normal norm in the normal society, Nivritischa, that means ceasing that Nivritti, that means leaving that. And what Moksha Dharma Ratistata. So, one should take to the Moksha Dharma, not the Gramya Dharma, but the Moksha Dharma. Moksha Dharma is that of salvation. One should get attracted. Ratistata, it is mentioned. It is become, one should get attracted to in that way. So that is the first section what we are dealing with. Now, if you have to understand, this Krishna consciousness movement is focused on this core principle actually of what is the ultimate purpose of human life. But if you generally see, Prabhupada is writing in this purport also, in the beginning is writing, it is recommended herein that religious practices for economic development or the sense or the satisfaction of sense desire should be avoided. So generally, if you talk about religious practices, we all understand that people immediately talk about, why should we should be taking up devotional, why we should be taking up religious activities. That's how the entire human society understands it, almost 99.99%, which is eating, mating, defending, and sleeping is there in the animals. And it is clearly defined, those 4 are the basics of animal kingdom. Or that is the characteristics of the animal kingdom, eating, mating, defending, and sleeping. Then humans, when it comes to humans, then the question comes, how do I differentiate myself from the animals? So those things are there in humans also, eating, mating, defending, and sleeping. But beyond this, what differentiates a human being? Then comes this question of some religious practices. That means trying to understand beyond these 4 to say, what is the purpose of my existence? Or that could still be considered a very high thing, but religious practices could necessarily need not be talking about the highest of, who am I, what is the purpose of life. That's even more higher, actually speaking. But the basic thing is, when you talk about religion, you talk about the morals, the ethics, and how you should restrain, how there should be sacrifice, how there should be um, restricted, uh, uh, life, that austerity. All these things are not there in this animal form of life. But in this human body, those thoughts are very natural. Like, you can see even in the most very materialistic people, you will find some of these traits: to be honest, to be sharing with people, lot of these things which are very subtle, which we call as human values. These are all there even in them. So that distinction is about from the animal kingdom to the human. And therefore there is some kind of, this is in a way defined as religion. And the process is said there is the four pillars is dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Dharma, artha, kama. So this dharma, which is very, very, very basically defined as what are the traits which are beyond human, beyond the animal traits, which actually are characteristics of a human being. And what is that special? Why should we have it? Is to see how a human is able to actually think beyond these four things of eating, mating, defending, and sleeping, not just from a sophistication point of view, but more purely from a elevation of that consciousness. From that point of view, not simply eating better, right? Defending better. Many people today have actually understood it that way. If you see most of the Western world, their point still these four things. But what is the ability of the human beings different than an animal means? I can think. Okay, what can you think? I can think how to make my living more comfortable. A dog cannot. Dog does not have the equipment to fight, right? But human beings has more ability to fight, even though he does not have the physical strength. He can actually destroy a complete city. So a lot of people think that is actually the difference between a human and animal. But if you really look at it, that is also defending. So the sophistication of the defending is not what is called the differentiator. The differentiator is actually the dharma, which we, as we talked about, the human values that we talked about, which is to like, as the things like I mentioned, the austerities, the ability to of controlling one's what do you call uh, uh, the incessant flow of desires. Like, you can keep on having, because you have a higher ability to achieve, then the desires are also flowing like anything. And then if one person is to really exploit nature like anything, then the whole devastation will happen. Therefore, how do you control everything? How do you be little over austere? How do you perform a bit of a restraint? These are the kind of things. So in that sense, the dharma was given. But that dharma, when you follow that dharma, the natural process, at least what is given in the Vedas is dharma, which leads to artha. That artha is, as you perform this dharma, then you also get the ability to enjoy, right? That artha, of course, is a lot of restrictions, but you get the ability to enjoy. I mean, artha, not enjoy. You get the what do you call, the resources. See, when you are straightforward, when you are right, when you follow this so-called dharma, righteousness, if I may say that, then naturally you tend to get the facilities. So artha, that means you get the abilities to be able to enjoy, and that is the next one, which is the kama. You get the kama, and as you keep being rightful, that is the dharma, you get sufficient resources because you are a righteous person, and nature awards you in as much as you are as rightful as possible. And as a process of that facility or the blessings that we get from nature, we are able to enjoy. So this again comes back to that eating, mating, and defending and all that. Still, it gives you a way which is more predictable. Like, if you are very righteous, then naturally you will get these things, which is not an animal. There's nothing called righteous or wrongness. They simply lead to get these four things done. There is nothing like, in a dharma way, I will kill a deer. Nothing. They just kill. They go and bite in the backside, not in the front side. But then that is what it is. And there is nothing called dharma and all that. But here, when you do this righteous way of doing things, then you are more or less regularly assured of your artha, and because of this artha, you get assured kama. That means satisfaction of the sense. But beyond this, what? But beyond this, when you keep on doing this, there are some people who come to this point. Okay, I keep getting all these things, which is nice, but still I'm not satisfied. I feel some vacuum in my life still, and therefore I need to see what that is, and then they come to this point of moksha, salvation. So this is the 99.99% of the people that are there. But the real Krishna consciousness philosophy is actually completely the opposite. And you can see this in this verse also, where it is mentioned, one should cease performing conventional religious practices and should be attracted to those which lead to salvation. That means instead of going through this dharma, artha, kama, moksha, that dharma should be defined in a way that it should actually lead to salvation and not lead to the intermediary things of artha and kama, like that, these two things. It directly jumps to the salvation aspect of it. Now, if you see Srimad Bhagavatam in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, see, that is the greatness of this philosophy of Vaishnava philosophy, of Krishna conscious philosophy, or of what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us. You see, Srimad Bhagavatam is such a voluminous subject matter, very, very big, 18,000 verses. So generally what you will expect, okay, build it up, like any subject. If you see, like you start studying science, history, geography, whatever, there is a kind of you start from the very basics and then you build up to the higher level of knowledge, you come to the PhD level, right? Yeah, there's so much in it. So now if you have to look at Srimad Bhagavatam, 18,000 verses, then you would expect, okay, then you to come to this point of final salvation point, there has to be so many things in between. So let's go through all of them and come to that point. No. Right in the second verse, of course, the first verse is actually paying obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is fine. That everybody does, like, just like you pray give your respects to the higher authority. That is the first one. But immediately after that, the second verse, if you see, it is very powerful. It starts with this level of subject matter that it's not for any common man. You will understand that. It says, Dharma prochita kaitavo atra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vatsavam atra vastu shivadam tapatrayor moolanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Parairishvaraha Sadhyo Hridi Avarudyate Atra Kritibihi Sushrushbihi Tatkanat. The translation is like this. First one is like Dharmaha, religiosity. Prochita, completely rejected. Kaitava, covered by fruitive actions. Now you get it, right? The first three lines straight away. Dharma prochita kaitava atra paramo nirmatsaranam satam. Atra, herein, paramaha, the highest, nirmatsaranam, of the 100% pure in heart. Satam, devotees. So now, one who is really serious will actually not be going through this kaitava, that means this fruitive actions, like earlier what we said, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So these three, that dharma which is performed will, for the artha and kama, is basically fruitive activities. That means karma kanda. That means I do this, as a result I get this benefit, and with this benefit I do this enjoyment. You think of various so-called yajnas that we perform in our normal life. They are meant through these three processes, these three things. That yajna we do is dharma, but for what? To get an artha. With that artha I enjoy. Right? So this is the principle. But here straight away it is saying projita kaitava. That means completely rejecting this fruitive intentions. And today's verse is also clearly saying that same. One should cease performing conventional religious practices and should be attracted to those which lead to salvation. So very, very clear. That means right from the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, this is pure spirituality. Nothing to do with this material concoction of, okay, let us do some of these religiosities, righteousness, so that, I will slowly come to this point of nice enjoyment and all of that, which is restricted. Dharma, when you talk about the Vedic enjoyment, it is restricted. It is not like unrestricted enjoyment. This is restricted enjoyment, but still enjoyment. That means sense gratification. That we should not forget. But here, beyond that, when you come to this point of, I have enjoyed enough, but still I am having everything, I'm so happy materially, but then I'm still finding that kind of a void in my heart. Or at least some people may not feel the void, but they see, this is all fine, this is there, I'm getting it and I'm doing it so much, I have everything, I have lived like this. But then what is beyond this? One who come to that inquiry state, but this is fine and I have enjoyed, but is that all to life? Is there something beyond? And that person starts thinking about salvation. Or someone who's already enjoyed enough, and if you say, this is like, I have done this over and over and over again, and there's absolutely no beyond a point. Initially, I felt it was happy, but then I feel that void. And therefore, I need to go beyond and I want to understand better. And that person comes towards salvation. So one who's enjoyed and frustrated, or one who feels, okay, this is all fine, what beyond? For those people, then the salvation comes. But here it comes directly that, you don't experiment and keep wasting time on all of these two things, but you directly take it from the scriptures. So the Bhagavatam starts like that in the second verse, and then it actually gives pure devotional service or any activity which is taking to the highest point of salvation. That is the greatness of Srimad Bhagavatam, and that is the greatness of our philosophy. So many people, if you see, people will all have, today, now we are all in Srimad Bhagavatam class, even though just two of us, that doesn't matter. Maybe some of them would be listening on the later on the net. But whatever it is, even if you take all our congregation as here, we hardly have 1,000, 1,500 in each of our temples. But, Bangalore will have something like 1.5 million people. So what are the rest of the 1.5 million people doing? Many of them say there is no God, I don't care. But 90% of those people are actually into doing a lot of religiosity. You tell them now today morning, 8 o'clock, we will have a session of Vishnu Sahasranama. We will chant Vishnu Sahasranama, all of us together. And you put down the benefits of Vishnu Sahasranama if you do Vishnu Sahasranama with the intent. Vishnu Sahasranama is a devotional activity, chanting Vishnu Sahasranama. But if you are saying that intent is actually to get this benefit, that benefit, you will find 150 people here immediately attending. Right? We have seen this. Many people, when we say we'll take Bhagavad Gita classes, they come very eagerly. If I come and hear nicely with a lot of intent, then I will get a lot of good things in my life. I will get this, I will get that. Currently I'm having this problem, I'm having that problem, this, that, and all that. And they think if I come and hear all these things, I will actually get all the benefits and I will be rid of all these problems, and I will really enjoy well. And over a few weeks, they come and you talk about devotional service in your Bhagavad Gita classes. Slowly that tapers down. I'm saying from experience. You start a new program somewhere newly, many people will attend, 35 people, 40 people. But as you keep going and talking clear your devotional service, slowly that attendance starts waning out, and finally there are only a couple of people. Some programs have to be stopped because nobody comes. But then that's okay. That's we should not be discouraged by that, because that is the nature of this consciousness at this point in time. And our job is to try and give this as much as possible, not dilute it. So many people therefore start diluting the subject matter and start giving, at that level where they are happy, so that they will keep coming. But that's okay. But at the end of it, you are coming, and your time and their time, if the subject is not delivered purely, there is no point in both of us doing this one. Beyond a point, people waste their time. So therefore, it's a debatable topic. So we need to be having that fine balance of how much of stuff we give to make them attracted to this one, but at the same time deliver the purity of this message. And that's a big debate altogether. But of course, all our devotees, whenever they give class, they ensure this is there. But if you see outside, they do not even talk about Vishnu Sahasranama being very pure in terms of the ability to raise your consciousness to salvation. They only talk about you get these benefits. They stop with dharma, that dharma for artha and kama, nothing beyond. But we have to take it to that salvation point of view. In Bhagavad Gita also, the Lord is saying in the second chapter, if you really see second chapter, 43rd verse, he says that, Yam imam pushpitam vacham pravaddanti avipaschitaha vedavada rathapartha nanya dasiti vadinaha kamat manaha swargapara janma karma phalapradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogeshwarya gatim prati. This one, if you see, men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good faith, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. Right, and then he's saying, Krishna is saying further, Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna Nibandho Nitya Sattvasto Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. So he's saying the Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes. Be free from all the dualities and from all anxiety for gain and safety, and be established in the self. You see, be free from all dualities from all anxieties for gain and safety. Artha kama moksha, not moksha, artha kama. And be established in the self is moksha. So the message is very clear and consistent, but majority of the people choose only some portions from the scriptures which are actually favorable to their way of wanting what they want, right? And it's always like this. You can give a message, but people will always interpret it to their advantage, right? So that they feel comfortable that, I am not doing something wrong. So Bhagavad Gita message is there, which actually comes to this point of Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mamekam Charanam Raja. But generally, people do not want to come to that platform. They will use it for peace. They will use it for yoga. They will use it for, in a way, even to misinterpret it, to give it as a, what do you call, everything is God. They will take some verse from Bhagavad Gita to give a different interpretation, because by that way they feel satisfied, because that is their desire. And they want to ensure they don't do something wrong, and therefore they interpret it in a way that it's favorable to their thinking. Therefore, there is no contradiction in their mind. Yeah, I'm only doing what is said in Bhagavad Gita. Right? So then you feel nice and happy, and you continue with your wrong understanding, because that is what you want to believe. But that is like, you pat my back, I pat your back, but we both will not make any progress. The idea is just to keep myself happy in whatever I want to believe in, but I just add this Bhagavad Gita to give my, so that I feel I am not wrong. That morally I am following Bhagavad Gita. But actually Bhagavad Gita is saying something else, but you are given an interpretation which is suitable to what your thinking goes. And this is going on 99.99%. But Prabhupada, and of course the entire Parampara, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they came and said, this is all enough. That is all fine. Those are all things which you have done for Bhavanam Janmanam. Now you come to this point of taking this step in this one life to actually transcend all this and come directly to the moksha platform. And Prabhupada also many times, there was some times when people said, see, Prabhupada, whatever your philosophical way of looking at the whole thing, or the practices that you give, and you negate a lot of the stuff. how many people will actually take to this, right? It's very difficult for people to look at it, to take up this kind of thing. If you're a little more generalized, if you're a little more broader to include everything, dharma, artha, and all that, sartha and kama and all that, there will be people will take it up. But yours is so, very rigid. Rigid in the sense not in the practice, but rigid means not a very difficult thing like that. But it's very easy one, but to implement it, it is difficult because people cannot be able to accepting that, I want to look at salvation, but I want to look at so many other things. Prabhupada said, that's okay. I know many people will not take it up. But here, I am not here just to, my idea is not to give something to everybody. I want to give what is the ultimate truth. And he said, I am also aware many of them will not take to it. But there are also many people at this level, and there should be a platform for them to actually be able to be in that platform so that they can advance. So not that everybody will be situated there. I am fully aware, but I am creating this platform for those people who are at that level, and for them, if there is no facility, how will they be able to progress? I am giving it like that. He said. So Prabhupada said many things. He has also said, everybody should become Krishna conscious. Then, then why should say only this is for those big people? Understand it in the context. The idea is that doesn't mean only those people can be there. We should be able to create awareness so that everybody is able to understand this and come on that platform. That is what it is. But he's also making a point that but this is the ultimate. This is the ultimate. Someone are already ready and they are sitting, they are able to easily use this platform. But there are many who are not able to understand this platform, but we need to educate them so that we can put them on the platform. Platform is necessary. I have given it to them, and some people are already eligible. They are sitting there. That doesn't mean it is only meant for those people. Then, therefore, it's an ideal, most perfect platform. Natural instinct or natural way forward is to get more other people to come to that platform so that they also are in that, are able to quickly progress in life. So that's why Prabhupada created this movement, and he never deviated from its pure spirituality, pure consciousness, pure Krishna consciousness. He did not dilute it in different ways to say that. Now let's quickly see the two verses which I talked about, the 8th and 9th verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter. Very, very powerful. You see these things. First canto, second chapter, 9th verse. Dharmasya hi apavargyasya narto artayo pakalpate nartasya dharmai kantasya kamo labhya hi smritaha. All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. Very powerful. All occupational duties are meant for ultimate liberation, not for artha and moksha. They should never be performed for material gain, artha and moksha. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in ultimate occupational service, that means of all of these things, what is the highest is? Everything is called dharma, right? But what is the ultimate dharma is for those guys who's like very keen on reaching that salvation. What it is? Should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. Material gain you will get, but that should not be used for sense gratification. The first two words, very nice. Dharmasya hi apa vargasya. That means pavarga we all know. Pavarga is for material activities. Apavarga is transcendental. So dharma should be used for the transcendental activity. Na artho, this is again very beautiful. Na artho topa kalpate. That means this artha, which comes from this dharma, that whatever benefit you get, it should not be used for the artha. That means for sense gratification. So that artha should not be used for this artha. That means that benefit which you get from dharma should not be used for the material artha, but it should be used for apavarga. That is the beauty of these two words, these two sentences. And then he is saying, according to the sages, one who's engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. Therefore, once that artha comes, don't use it for sense gratification. Very clearly. That means the third stage of whatever we get. He says you should use it for what purpose? That is there in the 10th verse. It is there. It says, Kamasya nendriya prithvir Abho jivate yavata jivasya tattva jignasa narto yes chesa karma bihi. It says, life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation. Since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth, nothing else should be the goal of one's works. So that means whatever artha is there, that is natural. See, when you have a census, the census should also get some bit of a satisfaction, right? That is always there. You can't, we are not like the Mayavadis, we say, oh, all this is all, what you call, it's a dream, or it is actually an illusion, and therefore I should completely be restricted. No, they will say, I will not eat for 30 days, 40 days, all that, because I should come out of this illusion that I am this body. No, we understand we are also body in one sense because we are encaged inside the body, and therefore the maintenance of the body is actually something which is legitimate. It is not like illegitimate to maintain your body. So we are very clear about that. Therefore, the point that is being raised is that artha which is there should be used for sustenance. That is the point that Prabhupada is trying to say. Sustenance means self-preservation. And why that self-preservation? Because we need to use this body to actually understand that absolute truth. We should maintain it in a reasonable manner without putting it to so much austerities. People they walk on fire. They will say, this is dharma and I will do this. They will walk on fire. But we don't want to torture the body like that. But their torturing is for, I will walk on the fire so that I will get this Shakti. I will get this, whatever. By that, I will enjoy these benefits. No. Our idea is not to torture the body to get all these material gains. Neither are we interested in torturing the body and say that the torturing will give us salvation. No. We understand this is a very important aspect, this body, which is given for us to understand salvation, understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, our relationship with that. Therefore, let us actually use it in a nice manner. It is not unnecessarily misused. Body should not be misused. So in that sense, the artha should be used to serve the body in a manner which helps it not to become either deteriorated or put in any kind of difficulties. Now, in that sense, it is mentioned right now, the second portion of the verse that we are discussing, it's actually talking about one aspect of that. It says, one should eat very frugally and should always remain secluded so that one can achieve the highest perfection of life. In that, Prabhupada is writing, right? How do you eat? So the artha should be used for having proper nutritious food. But then again, it is not for gratification. That's the point. Therefore, he's saying, as per all the majority of the Vedic texts, it is mentioned how do you eat. So that formula is given that you eat half of the stomach's capacity. The other half, 1/4, you actually fill with water. The rest 1/4 is filled with air. So this is the formula. Half of the stomach should be used with the solid food that we eat. In our case, prasadam. The 1/4 of it should be filled with water and 1/4 should be filled with air. If this is followed, then the body will be perfectly healthy. And what is so that means this artha should be used like this, but for what purpose? Because the body is healthy, you are able to actually focus on the moksha. That you are able to actually keep a very fit body, however old we are or however difficult the environment is. We are always ready to do devotions. Because I am not under any kind of a physical problem, because I use the artha to use for the body in a nice manner that it is actually ready to perform at highest capability, 100% performance in terms of devotional service. That I am keeping myself ready. So that is the thing that is being mentioned. And the third one mentioned, of course, is you are in a secluded place. But if you go further in these verses, it will talk more about the yogasanas aspect of it, and therefore that mode of seclusion is there. But you cannot be able to focus on the what do you call meditate on if there is a lot of disturbance around you. And in that context, it is said you should be in a secluded place. Which we also say, right? You sit in one calm place and chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, not where there is some big film music going on. You cannot focus there. So that is there. The idea is to actually focus our mind on the Paramatma from a yoga point of view, but from a bhakti point of view on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. So I end here. If there are any questions or comments, welcome. Hare Krishna. Okay. So if there is nothing much, we will end this session here. It's a very nice topic. We can go on into each of these aspects very much, but this is at a very higher level. We just could discuss 2-3 contextual verses, 4 verses that we discussed contextually from Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita to understand this big verse. So thank you for your time and for joining. We will continue to have these wonderful Bhagavatam discussions every day for Seshadripuram, ISKCON Seshadripuram, Shri Jagannath Baladev Devi Subhadra Temple. Hare. I'll end the session. Tantra Srimad Bhagavatam.